doing a monologue today for my favorite made-for-TV movie, which is the Betty Broderick story starring Meredith Baxter Birney.
That's very good then. Okay. Very good then, Mary Catherine. So whenever you're ready, off you go.
Okay. I just have to prepare. Okay, wait, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Okay, I remember it was dawn, and the sun was just barely rising. And I took the gun out of a little wooden box in my room, and I went outside, and I got into my car, and I drove, over to Dan Broderick and Linda Kilkeena's house, and then I broke into their front door, and I slowly climbed up the stairs and into their bedroom, and I saw them sleeping there, and I just shot them both. I hate you, Dad! I hate you! I hate you!
Very good girl. Good girl. Yes, very good. Very good.
Monologue!
So, ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Molly Shannon. That's you.
What a nice introduction.
He elevates our guests. So I don't get it, because you're so normal, you look normal. But then those characters come out of you, and I'm like, where's this coming from? Because some of them you invented yourself, right?
Most of them, yeah.
So is there someone in you? Were you a Mary Catherine Gallagher at one point in your life?
Well, Saturday Night Live is it's a show where there's so many comedians on the show, and they're all vying for a spot to get on the air. So there's like 17 performers, and they're all trying to get on the air. So you have to really come up with your own ideas and write your own characters. So it's really a writing job. But I basically I did a stage show before I did Saturday Night Live that I developed with some comedian friends of mine. We would just meet in my living room and we would improvise, and I created a lot of those characters in that stage show. It was called the Rob and Molly Show, and so I created Mary Catherine Gallagher in that show, Sally O'Malley, and then I brought those characters to the show. But and I kind of developed them live in front of an audience. So Mary Catherine Gallagher was developed actually at NYU Drama School. We just did a comedy review show, and the director, we were just doing an acting exercise where she said, just, walk through the door and introduce yourself and just don't think about it too much, just make something up. And so I made up that character in that acting exercise, and then they built a whole show around it at NYU in this trolley show. So then I continued to develop the character over the years. In LA, in these little theater shows, I developed it more and more and more, so that when SNL came around, I had a bunch of characters from my little stage show that I brought to the show.
Yeah. You see, just keep doing stuff. We had Jonah Hill here at one time, and he said, just keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
Because you see, if SNL came around and you didn't have that characters, all that work that you did before, who knows?
It's so true. Well, actually, the SNL came around looking 5 years before. I heard that Lorne Michaels was in town, and he was looking for girls, and they asked for a tape. And I worked really hard with my waitressing money and put this tape together where I just did characters. I made a little 4-minute reel, and my tape got passed over. And I remember being in my little apartment in Hollywood, and I was on a payphone outside of the El Pollo Loco, and I found out that my tape had been passed, and I was like, no. And then I thought, well, you know what? I'm just gonna, exactly what you said, I thought, I'm just gonna work really hard on my show and write comedy and practice every Monday with my little comedy group and create characters and just develop, so when they come back around, I'll be ready. And that's exactly what I did. And I would not have been ready. So it's true that everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
And then when they came back 5 years later, they asked for a tape again. And I said, no, I'm not going to give you a tape. I said, you got to come see my show And so I got one of the big town recruiters, Marcy Klein, to fly in to see my show. And then I got invited to audition, but I was much more ready.
Yes.
And I was ready to be on air, because if you get the job too soon, it wouldn't have been good. But you're right. Yeah.
And it's why, you know, we have acting students here in the house tonight, and they all have to take writing classes.
Yeah.
Because we really push this idea that, like, especially now, 2014, with the web, it's like you want to put you out there.
Yeah.
And not necessarily wait for someone to create the perfect role for you, but create it for yourself.
Exactly. That's fantastic. Yeah. Right.
So when did you know that you wanted to be an actress?
I did know from the time I was little. I always was making up characters. Like if I played with my friend Anne Rampt and I, when I was little, just in playing, we would always do characters. Like we would imitate her grandmother, or playing house, or playing Barbies. We were always. But sometimes we would talk in voices all day, like we couldn't stop imitating her grandmother. It was like you just naturally want to do it, and
like your face will stay that way if you don't stop doing it.
We weren't performing for anybody. We would just do it to one another. Like we'd be like, "You better get your butt in that bathtub and walk smack." We would imitate her grandmother. We couldn't stop doing accents. We would do it all day long, and then we'd be like, "All right, we gotta stop." But it was just she and I, no audience. But then. I think, and then I went to high school and I did like musicals and stuff. And I when I was in high school, I thought I really do want to be an actress, but I was afraid to admit it. But I was like I was like in Mary Catherine Gallagher in Superstar. Like I really wanted to do it, but I was really shy. And I remember they had like an opportunity where people could sing during the school, like whatever, when they would gather the students. And I sang a Judy Garland song, and I bombed. I was terrible. The mic was like. And people just laughed. It was terrible. And I just was like, oh God. And then when it was time to graduate, I'd gotten more confidence, and I sang another song, and that went really well. But I was embarrassed to admit that I wanted to be an actress. I felt embarrassed about it, like shy, like I don't know if I'm good enough, or kind of like that. Yeah.
You know what was interesting? When I was like in an elementary school, I got a lot of roles in place because my voice was confident, but I had zero ability in acting. But they just knew that I'm reliable. And then some girl on the side that didn't look like much and nobody ever noticed, and she opened her mouth and she started to act. And suddenly you saw a whole other persona. Wow. And she was a natural actress. And it was really interesting to see who's the real actor, you know?
Yeah.
It's like they're shy, they're not confident, but they have this real natural ability, and suddenly they came alive, you know, when the opportunity came.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting.
We had, in my grade school, we had these two women, every St. Patrick's Day, I went to a Catholic grade school, we would put on a St. Patrick's Day show, and each grade would do a song and dance number. And I remember, like, you know, third or fourth grade, I was so excited, I couldn't wait. These two sisters, Miss Patty and Miss Jackie, would come and they would teach each class a routine. And they were like Sally O'Malley. They wore red pants, they had black hair, and they were twins, and they were like kick, and you know. And so I couldn't. It was like the highlight of my year when they would come and teach us the routine, and we would sing. And so I really liked getting in front of people. And then the mothers would come the night of the show and put lipstick on us and makeup. And I love the smell of the makeup. And I love the community of being with your friends and dressing up and, you know, that whole thing. Yeah.
So you knew pretty early.
Yeah.
What I was also going to say, so you went to Tisch, so you were just studying acting, like were you in the musical theater program, acting program?
I just studied regular drama. I was a very serious dramatic actress. And then I remember they had an audition for that comedy show that I told you about, and I thought, well, maybe I'll try this. And then that felt so natural to me. I was like, oh, this is great, because I was in these very serious acting classes, which I loved, but then I was like, God, this comedy feels really natural. It felt very organic to me. The first time I did that comedy exercise, you know, just come through the door and don't think about it and introduce yourself and make up a character, and then you could improvise for 2 minutes based on that character. I love that you couldn't overthink it, that you would like a character just comes out of you naturally. You're not, I didn't plan that.
Not from all of us, by the way. It doesn't come naturally from all of us. Yeah.
Right. Well, exactly. I know that that's hard, but I just remember feeling like it just felt very natural, and I didn't have to be go into like a sad memory, although I like that too. My favorite thing is like drama with comedy together. I like that. Like even when I did characters on the show, I never wanted to just make fun of the characters. I always liked heart with comedy.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. So the whole adage about drama is easy and comedy is hard, that didn't really work for you, right?
Right, that drama is easy and comedy is hard. Who says that?
Everybody.
Down in the fourth row.
Comedy is hard. They're so different. I think it's they're so different, but sometimes I've seen very dramatic actors try to do comedy and they're too cerebral about it. And I think you can't be in your head. You have to just forget all that. So I remember at NYU Drama School, there were these really amazing actresses, but then they would do comedy and they were really like, so what do? I have to get into my body? They were just thinking about it so much, you know? And I was like, just don't think about it, you know? So, yeah, but it's not necessarily, I don't think all comedians can do drama. It just depends on the type of comedian, because you have to be really vulnerable and present and available. So, I don't know, they're both hard. They're so different, I think.
Can I ask you, I think that for every working person that is succeeding, there is a moment where suddenly it works and it all kind of crystallizes, and from that moment on, you're just off and running. Well, before, it somehow was never possible. Was there a moment like that for you?
There was. I was hustling. You know, I did not have an easy time. It was hard to get an agent. I came here. I didn't know anybody. I graduated from NYU. I stayed in New York City for like a year, and then I thought, I really want to be on TV. And so my friend Jean Pack and I came out here. We made a deal to come out together. We rented a little place in Hollywood. I did not have any money. And I took a cash advance on my credit card. You know, my dad didn't give me money, and and then I rented a rack. But again, I had no money, no job, and I hustled. I did anything. I sold office supplies. I just did anything to make a buck, temping, this, that. And then I got an agent, but that was not easy either.
Yes.
I also, one summer when I was at NYU, I flew out here by myself and I stayed at the USC dorms. I didn't even have a car. And I paid like $15 a week, or I forget, it was really cheap. It was like a student summer housing. And I would take the bus from USC to Sunset Boulevard and just walk up and down, passing out my headshots. And that's how I got my first agent. I didn't know a soul. And my first agent represented Gary Coleman, and so I was like, wow, I'm gonna make it! Gary! And he paid for my headshots, and he invited me to his house in Beverly Hills, and it was a little sleazy, but I had an agent, so I really didn't know anybody. But anyhow, then cut to NYU, stayed there for a year, then I moved out here with my friend and just took odd jobs, no money, and got an agent out here same way, just kind of mailing pictures, cold calls, like looking at, the newspaper, whatever, the genre newspaper, and then I got an agent, and I was auditioning. I got auditions, and but I got rejected all the time, and I couldn't really get arrested. And I think I got.
Did you try to get arrested?
I think I got a few. I had a waitressing job, and then I got like a commercial, I remember, and I got a part on Twin Peaks, and I was like, oh, there's hope. And I got like a Denny's commercial. So I remember thinking, wow, maybe I could it was like nice money to add to my waitressing. But then I was around for years auditioning, and I really could not catch a break for years and years and years. And I remember this casting director she'd seen me around a lot, and she was like, you need a break. It's just too bad. You've been around for a while. You really need a break. And I go, I know. And then I went on an audition, and I remember the girls, it was like a show where they're going to bring the people that they wanted straight to meet the producers, and the ones they didn't want would leave. And I remember there was a girl, I went in an audition, I didn't do very well, and I left. And then I had to say goodbye to everybody, so they knew that I didn't get it. And then another girl who had auditioned, I bumped into her in the parking lot, and she was just really chipper, and she was like, really took it with a grain of salt. And I remember she was doing like exercise against her car, like, so who's your agent? And just really like relaxed. And I would get so depressed, and I really took it to heart, and I felt very rejected. It was really hard. I would get really down.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, I don't know if I can take this anymore. I just like having to prove yourself and go in and sell yourself. I was like, it's really can be hard on your heart, there's a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna, this auditioning wasn't working for me. I wasn't able, they weren't getting what I did, and I wasn't really working, and I felt like they didn't really know what I was doing in my shows. I wasn't able to bring into the auditions. It just wasn't, the two weren't going together. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna like take a year off and not worry about it and just go out for coffee with friends and work a little, doing odd jobs. And maybe just focus on my stage show, and that's it. I'll do that, maybe I'll do once. And then that was when I got Saturday Night Live. I had taken like a year off, and I thought, I don't really know if I have the heart to do this. And then that's when it came through.
I was hoping to ask you about Enlightened, which these guys just saw. And, I imagine you were on Saturday Night Live, was it 6 seasons,
6
right?
years, mm-hmm.
And so for yourself after that, I mean, that's like being, almost like you're on auditions all the time. You have new characters every week and new scenes. And what was it like for you then after Saturday Night Live in terms of for you to go on auditions and convincing people, hey, I'm more than just, Courtney Love. Like, I can play lots of things. And then you worked with Mike White on Year of the Dog.
Yeah. And we did a TV show together too called Cracking Up. It was only 2 episodes, aired on Fox. And then we did Enlightened. So Year of the Dog, Enlightened. That was hard. It wasn't like I was trying to prove myself as a dramatic actress or anything. I was just so, I have such a different philosophy because I worked so hard to get to that point. I just felt so appreciative. And I remember people being like, oh, SNL's a great stepping stone. I was like, a stepping stone? Like, I felt like I could stop right there. Like, this was plenty. This exceeded my expectations. Like, I only wanted to, I never thought I would even get that much. And because it was also a really hard job, I was like, I didn't have some big fantasy about life after SNL that much. Mm-hmm. So I think, more of me leaving the show was kind of, I have kids now and I'm married and I really wanted a family. I didn't want my whole life to just be work. So leaving the show was more for personal reasons. I really wanted children, and I felt like I've been working so hard my whole life to get that when I left the show, I didn't have like some bridge, like some big movie. A lot of people do that, which is very smart, but I didn't, that wasn't my goal at the time. I just wanted a personal life. I felt like I better get it together or else I'm just going to be like, working all the time and that's it. So, and then Mike White I met through, he had written a pilot, and I just happened to be on a meeting, and they said, oh, there's this pilot, you might be too young to play the mom, this pill-popping mom, but why don't you meet Mike White? And so Mike and I just had coffee. We met through the producer, Dana Walden, who's now at 20th, and she introduced me to Mike, and we just got along great, and we became friends. So through that friendship, the show ended up getting canceled, and then just through that friendship, he ended up writing me a movie. And so it was just from being friends, which is amazing.
And this part seemed like it was custom fit for you too.
Yeah, we're still really good friends.
It's a good friend.
Yeah, so it's just amazing. Like, it's such a small town, and you never know. And it's so great to meet filmmakers and writers, and you never. And that's one of the things I love about show business is I really do love people and just my peers who do different things. I like my field, and I love one of the favorite parts about it is as much as the work is just the people and meeting different people that do different things. I get so stimulated by that. I truly, really like that. I'm an extrovert that way. Yeah.
Good thing because you're an actress.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I know Mike White.
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
He's so great. The character here is just the way. There's so much pathos to his character, and Lighter done that thing together.
Yeah.
And now you guys have to buy the DVD and Blu-ray legally and see what happens with the relationship, right?
Yeah.
It ends on a bit of a cliffhanger this episode.
The whole season is so good, and Year of the Dog is really good that he wrote too. And it was such a gift for me, because I think a lot of times when you do comedy, they think, oh, you're just broad. So really, from that friendship, people were like, oh, she can do drama, you know. I love doing that. It's like my favorite thing. I like both, but I was never set out to be like, I'm going to show them that I can do drama. I never thought that. I always knew that from NYU, but I just didn't. It just was luck and friendship. That came from friendship. Yeah.
That's interesting, because one of the questions that I was thinking to ask you was, do you still need to network at this point in your life, or you just leave it to the agent and the manager?
No. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, I still do network, and I always try to meet people. And that's one of the great things about being in LA. It's like the epicenter of all show business.
Yes.
And the business, the town, it really is like a little high school. And, you know, I remember when I first moved here, I was like, oh my God, it seems so daunting and gigantic. But the longer you're here, you're like, oh, that person knows that person. And it's really this little community. And it's really important to treat people well, and you never know who knows. And sometimes you're up for some job that you don't get, but you ended up meeting that person that could remember you for something else. Like, you have to look at the big picture and don't just look at don't be short-sighted about it, because it's a fun business to be in. And for me, I remember when I was going through that period of being rejected and having no money, I remember I got so jealous because like a friend of mine got a part on this TV show called Charles in Charge, and I was so jealous. I was so jealous, and I walked. Yeah, and I like went and cried, like, how come he gets a part of Charles in Charge and I get nothing? And I cried, and I walked around the block, and I like prayed to God. And then I remember thinking, oh, well, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and there were a lot of my friends who just weren't really doing what they wanted to do. They just moved back home, and they just took a job. They weren't really going for what they wanted. And I was really young, but I remember thinking, well, at least I'm out here doing what I want. Like, I'm pursuing my passion, and that's really a meaningful life. Like, that alone is really good. Like, that's a good, happy life.
Yes.
If your work has meaning, even if you're like the janitor, but you enjoy cleaning and it gives you meaning to keep the school clean, that's really what it is. The rest is fleeting, because it's so up and down, that if you have spiritual value in your artistic work, that is always what I go back to if I get lost, of like working with creative people and enjoying your friends and being with good people and doing good work. And then you can go on the roller coaster of you're up, you're down, you're hot, you're not, you gotta prove yourself again. You know, so that's what and I still feel that way. And I feel like this work is so meaningful to me, and I'm so happy that I'm an actress, and I still think the same way about it as I did then. But I remember being like this, I'll die trying, because at least I'm doing what I want. You know? Yeah.
To ask questions.
Oh, just get behind the microphone, guys.
Listen,
You
they're
can
shy.
cross. It's cool.
Okay.
No one pay attention to how she crosses. It's all good.
My name's Emmanuel.
Hey, Emmanuel.
BFA filmmaking student here. And my question for you is, I'm really curious actually, like, as an actress being on camera, because you're so good at this, what are things that you have found helpful going from the heightened styles of an SNL set to the more dramatic and subtle sets that you do on Enlightened and maybe Year of the Dog?
Yeah. They're so different. Like, SNL is, I don't completely miss it. It's kind of terrifying. It's like, it's like the equivalent of like climbing a mountain. It feels really like heart-poundingly, it's scary. It's like so much pressure because it's live, and it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, boom, and you only get one chance, and it's crazy. So a part of me doesn't miss it. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. So the film stuff is completely different. It's quieter. You can do it over and over again. I love it. They could not be more different. But the live performance is just exhilarating. It's amazing. But when it doesn't work, it's hard too, because we would go out and do sketches that would just bomb, and I remember being like, "Oh my God, it can be so humiliating." But I always tried to go back to the philosophy of, this is good, and just keep it. If you fail, if it doesn't work, just embrace the failure. Will Ferrell and I would do a thing where we wrote a sketch once that was just tanking. It did not get a laugh. It was about two people that had recently lost 100 pounds, and I was like, "So you lost?" And there was not a single laugh in this giant audience. And Will and I just looked at one another and we made a deal that no matter how badly we bombed, we would keep committing as actors, and just the more it bombed, the more we would pour our heart into it. And we just looked at one another. It was such a good experience, because it's just as important as succeeding. They go together. You really have to embrace the failures. I think they should coexist.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Drew.
Hey, Drew.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I was wondering that. Good start already. When you're not performing, especially before Saturday Night Live, did you ever feel like you always had to be on, comedically, in order to prove yourself to new people, and then kind of, further explain yourself to the people that you already know?
That's a good question. Do you feel that way?
No, it's a friend of a friend.
Not you, Jim. No, yeah, exactly.
Guy in the fourth row.
Let me see. I don't think I really did feel that way, no. But I remember the first time I slept at my friend's house when I was little, and she had all these sisters. She had there were 6 kids in her family, and the mom was like, "I'm gonna make chicken cacciatore for dinner, Molly." And I was like, I made my first joke in my head. I was like, I said out loud in front of the whole family, I was like, "Oh, I have a chicken, but I don't want any of the cacciatore." And they were like, it's such a dumb little joke, but I remember feeling like, ooh, I felt powerful. But I would say I'm more serious in real life. I'm really not like that. I don't feel like I have to be on. No, I don't feel that way too much. Yeah.
Man, who loves Drew's shirt?
My mom does not. So.
I wish I was your mom. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for making me cry.
Aww.
I really, really needed to hear all that you're saying. I just think that your perseverance and the fact that you started from nothing. You hear so many people say, "Oh, I took this class, but really had all these connections," and you really did it. You did it from Ohio, and you just never gave up. And that's really cool. And also, we missed your birthday. So, I was supposed to show this to Eric before, so I'm just going to show it. It's just a card, and it's cat butt hand soap, so you don't have to put your fingers in your armpit.
Okay.
And then there's roller derby air freshener, so you could smell the sweat in your car.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
And then there's a really cheesy card. It'll be fun. But my question for you is, if you could have a project, maybe not acting, but just any dream project that you'd like to execute, even, whether it's community, family, acting, singing,
Right.
what would it be?
If I could have any project, well, I would love to. I have kids. I have 2 little kids who are 9 and 11, and they love me to be home. They're like, "Where are you going tonight?" So and my mom died when I was really little, so I have to say I love being a mom. I'm really loving this phase of my life. So for me, ideally, I'd love to do a cable show, because it's less episodes per year, and the hours are pretty reasonable. So my dream would be to do maybe be a regular on a cable show that's kind of funny and dramatic, and I would like that if I could think of an idea for it, to pitch it or to be added to some show that exists. The schedule is really great, and you can still have a life, so that would be my dream.
Cool.
Yeah.
You could have brought your kids here.
I know. Aww.
Yeah, somebody brought
heard
their
about
kids
them.
and they sat in the first row and they loved it. They saw their father.
Oh, that's so cute. I could have, yeah. That's a good idea.
Wow, I'm not gonna be able to beat that. Like I was in the line thinking, wait. But what was my question is, what was your craziest set story ever?
Craziest set story? When I was doing Courtney Love at Saturday Night Live, that was originally a fake pitch because we used to have to go pitch stuff on Monday nights when the host was there. And I forget who the host was, but I pitched a fake sketch. I was like, oh, I want to do the Courtney Love show, but it was just a fake pitch because I couldn't think of anything. And then they picked the show, and then Friday night, right before the show, Lauren Michaels was like, hey, where's that Courtney Love show sketch? You know, you better write it. It was really late Friday night, so I had to write it. And I did it for the first time. I forget. I don't know what you showed tonight because I didn't see. But she showed up that night. She was
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews.
Oh my God.
She showed up. She was filming with Julie Andrews. She was filming The People versus Larry Flint, and she came in with black hair, smelling like patchouli, and she was like, "Where's Molly?" While I was performing, and I was just punched me, and I was so scared. I was like, it's a live show. And so she's really tall, so that was crazy, I have to say. But then she was, and I was like, parody's such the highest form of flattery. A cigarette. She was like, here, and then she was actually sweet, but she definitely confronted me about it. So aggressive. Yeah.
Hello. I was gonna say, you seem like a really humble and grounded person. Like, how was it for you coming to LA when you moved to like at a young age? Like, did you find like the lifestyle and like the whole LA thing like really daunting, or like not sure how to handle it, or what do you find?
I did. I definitely found it daunting. I worked at Craving. I worked at a lot of restaurants, so people knew me more as a hostess or a waitress, which was fun because I met a lot of people. And I would use the people that I met at my restaurants to invite them to my shows. So it was kind of daunting, but I was like, oh, this is great, because I'm meeting all these people, and I'd be like, you should come see my comedy show, and I would take their name and number, and then I would, when I did a show, this was before, like, I wasn't on Facebook or internet, it was before that, it was in the olden days.
MySpace.
Yeah, no, there wasn't even that. So I would just collect names and phone numbers, and then when I would do a show, I would call them. I'd be like, hey, Monica, I met your Cravings. Come to my show. And I would pack the house myself, and my goal was just to have one business person come per show. Like, I thought, just so I wouldn't get disappointed, my expectation was just one business person per show. If it was an agent or a writer. And then the people in my restaurant, I would write notes like, Monica, red hair, she's a lawyer. Because sometimes I wouldn't even remember who I invited. And, but I did find it daunting. I thought it just seemed so giant. I didn't know where to start. Yeah. But I tried, I think I was excited that I was in town, that this was the place to be.
But you notice how much effort she put into getting her own thing going.
Yeah.
She didn't just wait for something.
I tried to, yeah, that's true. I felt like if you're a woman that can kind of write or do comedy, that it felt really empowering to, instead of just auditioning or trying to get an agent, to also create work and do a show. So it was really trying to get an agent and then also working on my own show that had nothing to do with it. I would just invite my own friends from the restaurants and invite people. So that's really how I made it, was from the shows. It had nothing to do with agents or anything, because in that way I couldn't get arrested. That's why there's so many different ways to go around. Do you know what I mean? Like, you never know. Yeah.
Especially when people don't fit into, they have their own thing and they don't fit into a certain formula or something. It's very hard to break through auditions and stuff.
It was really hard.
I know people who write their own material and they're unique and they're brilliant at what they do, and then it's very hard for them to go and play characters the way those people want them to.
It's such a good point, but I feel like, and then I want to get to your question, in a way it was great that it was harder, because if I'd gotten some break, I probably wouldn't have developed a stage show and worked and created characters doing what I'm better at. That was really what I was more meant to do. And if I'd just gotten some of those jobs that I auditioned for, I might never have done that. So yes, my route was harder, and but in the end, it really was like everything happens for a reason.
I agree.
Good evening, Molly. Thank you very much for coming, especially for Serendipity. Thank you very much for this movie. That was the first one which I saw with you.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
It was in a completely different part of the world than where we are right now. So my question is, could you please tell us a bit more about the process of preparing the character, dramatic and comedy?
Yeah. Let's see, the process of creating the character. I don't know. I always just try to come from within, you know, because you're still using yourself. And I still break down a scene. I studied with David Mamet at NYU, so I still break down a scene the same way, whether it's comedy or drama. And I usually try to focus on the other person and be present. And so I take the focus off myself, so I'm not thinking about myself. And yeah, I still break the scene down in this way that I learned in acting class, where I'll do like an action, like, you know, to get him to smell the coffee, you know, to, you know, set the record straight. Like I have an action, and then so I break them down the same way, whether it's comedy or drama. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hi, my name is Dylan, and I really liked your movie Superstar. That was one of my favorites. One of my own question to ask you is, once you became like famous and everything, was it hard to transition from just like a normal life to like a more, I don't know how to describe it, really, like
Public.
Yeah, more public.
Public.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like more exciting. I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. So it was really from Saturday Night Live. Like the first time I did Mary Catherine Gallagher on the show, I really started getting recognized, and the crew people were like, my mother loved that. She said she knows a girl like that. And people started coming up to me, and then people on the street would say stuff. So I have to say I loved it. I was crazy. I was really friendly to fans and stuff. But I remember they would come up to me and they'd be like, I really like it. I was like, you did? You like that? What part did you like? I would drill them, and they're like, I just wanted to say. I was like, I'm gonna calm down. So, you know. But then the other side I will tell you too, and this goes back to the spiritual aspect of it, is that, you know, my mom died when I was little in a really bad car accident, which is a big part of my story and my drive. Like, I had a hard childhood, and my dad was great, but a little unstable and raised us. So part of the drive and all that rejection, I was like, well, I went through hell when I was little, so this is nothing. I can take it, you know? But I have to say that at the peak of my fame on SNL, I was like, kind of got really dark, because I was like, oh, I thought that this would fix everything. I thought that, you know, you would work so hard, and then when you got there, everything would be great, you know? My mother would come back from the dead, and she'd be like, I'm so proud of you, you know? But the truth, and no matter how many people came up to say that, I was like, oh, it still doesn't bring the main lady that I want to come back. So it was actually like sad, strangely enough. But then I really came to peace with it, of like, okay, well then just, this doesn't fix anything. It doesn't fix that hole inside of you, fame or recognition. It doesn't do that. But then it was like a really good lesson, because I felt like, oh, well then I'll just enjoy being creative, and realizing that's not going to fix anything or give you endless happiness. And so it was like a really good lesson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And not to ruin the mystique of you, but, you know, right before this, we were hanging out in our green room,
Right.
which is more like a hall, and we were talking about taking bags of pretzels for our kids, and she didn't have an entourage back there, unless they were hiding in maybe they're hiding in the corners just in case.
Yeah,
but,
no.
You know, I think it's also like you've been able to really find this thing that grounds you,
Yeah.
you know, as a person, which then helps everything else.
Yeah, exactly. I do try to live that way, yeah.
Hi Molly, I'm Lynn. We've been talking about all your characters on SNL, but I wanted to tell you you're my favorite guest star on Will and Grace. And your character Val is crazy, but she's so fantastic. And I wanted to ask you, what was it like working on that show? Because like they're all like the biggest star, Deborah Messing, Sean Hayes, Megan Mullally, Eric McCormack. But you guys worked so well together on that show. I remember the scene where Deborah Messing can't keep a straight face, when you and Megan Mullally both are pulling your arms. Like, how do you do that? Like, does it just like go naturally with all of them?
They were great. That was such a good part, and those people were so good. So it was such a fun job, because coming from SNL, it was like kind of easy and fun, because I was like, oh wow, we don't have to write it ourselves. They just give you the script and you perform it. So I was like, and they put you up at a fancy hotel, and I was like, it was just fun. They wrote me a great character. So. And again, it's a multi-camera show, so that's different than Saturday Night Live and different than single camera, which is more like a movie. But it's multi-cam, so you can still stop and redo it again, and they can write a better joke. So you still get to. It was still. I love that format. It was really fun. It's kind of in between SNL and single camera. It's still theatrical, and you're kind of out to the camera, and it's many jokes per page, more than a single camera show or SNL, but I really liked it.
Okay, thank you.
They were like a great group.
Yeah,
I
so
really enjoyed that.
And you worked with him on Promises, right?
I did. I worked. Sean Hayes is a friend of mine. Yeah,
which
he's great.
I forgot to mention.
Oh,
Mine
that's
is
okay.
very
Don't
long.
worry.
Yeah.
Oh my God, please.
She has a list that is so big. I'm not even.
Oh my God.
She's a children's book author. She's a
Oh.
mechanic. She sings in Wales. I mean, it was a very long list. PR people do wonderful work.
Oh, good.
My turn?
Your turn.
Hi, Molly. Stephen Brandon. You said that SNL was mainly a writing show that you would have to do. So
Yeah.
when you first started writing here in LA, how did you attack it? Were you first, did you write a stand-up, or did you do comedy skits? Were you doing like one-woman shows? Like how?
Great question. I did. I took an improv class at Second City, and I met some other comedians and people that had similar interests. And then from that but I wasn't like a big Second City performer or anything. I just met a couple nice people, and then we thought, oh, maybe we'll do our own show. So there were like 4 or 5 comedians from that show that we decided we'd do our own show. We formed a little group called the Lumber Company, and we would just meet in my apartment in Hollywood, that same apartment in Hollywood, and we would meet Monday Monday afternoon from like 3 to 5. And we just started creating a show. And we did skits with 5 people, and then we did 3-person skits, 2-person skits, and then we put a show up in Hollywood. We rented a theater, and there was like 5 or 6 of us in the group, and then that went really well. We got reviewed and got people to come, and we would just invite people that we knew, friends and people from restaurants where we worked, and then me and this guy kind of got singled out, where they were like, and so this guy, Rob Muir, who I'm still really good friends with, said, maybe you and I could just do something, like we could just do a show together. And so he started helping me, and he said, comedy is really good comedy. And I was like, is it? He was like, yeah, comedy is king. And I was like, is comedy king? I was like, and then, so then just he and I started branching off, where I would do a character by myself, and then he would do one by himself, and then we do some group stuff, then I'd do one by myself. And we developed it in front of an audience. Like, I would, do like a 2-minute sketch. I'd try out a character, like Sally O'Malley, for example. And I would do it in front of an audience of people that I invited from restaurants. And I never actually wrote it. I would just do it orally in my head. I'd have an idea of what I wanted to say and how she would walk. And I'd go get the outfit at thrift shops and buy the wig and make it up and have a loose idea of what I was going to say. And then I developed it in front of the audience, and I'd be like, oh, okay, they laughed at that. And I would remember in my head, but I would just practice it walking around the block. I never actually wrote it. I would just do it in my head. And then learning from the audience of what they laughed at and stuff. And you just kept doing the show and developing that show. And I made the show really great it was like a 50-minute show, and I made it really fun for agents, and we'd serve alcohol, and if people couldn't afford to buy the ticket to come, I'd pay for their ticket, because I was really into creative visualization. I felt like the money's gonna come back to me, and I would just, have one business person come per show, and so I made it like this fun evening, where it wasn't too long, it was just like a fun, fast, 50-minute comedy show. Yeah, that's what I did.
15?
50. 50. Not too long, because I knew there was these agents coming.
Yes.
Like, I want to try to get good agents to come, and they were tired, and they were coming after work, so I made it very friendly to business people. Like, I think, oh, they're tired, they've been working all day, let's do it at 8 o'clock, we'll make it fun, we'll serve wine, make it like a fun. I hired a band, and I paid for them with my own waitressing money. I paid for everything. And I would, like that, like really hustle. And I would invite the whole audience myself. So I have one more part of the story. So when I got Saturday Night Live, I had a box of names and phone numbers from those shows, and I would hustle. And I took the box after I got SNL of names and phone numbers, and I was like, I threw it in the dumpster because I was like, I don't have to cold call people anymore. And then I remember I went from like 100 people a night to like millions, and I was like, and I don't have to pay for the band's paid for by NBC. So it's like it jumped up, you know? Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Hilarious.
Hi Molly,
Hey.
my name's Nicole.
Hey, Nicole.
I just wanted to ask you about, you said it was hard for you to take your comedy show and take that into the audition room with you. I just want to know how you accomplished taking that high that you get from being on stage or being in a part and taking that into a meeting or in conversation.
Wait, so I'm so confused. Wait, being the part that you were on stage into an audition?
Like having the feeling when you're acting and when you're doing a comedy show or improv and having that kind of excitement that you have when you're doing it and kind of taking that magic with you into a meeting, because it's kind of hard to express what you're doing. You know, they kind of have to see it.
Yeah, I felt it was very hard. That's a good question, because I don't think I was doing it very well. Because it was, for whatever reason, stuff I would audition for, I was like, oh, this is very different than what I'm doing in my show. What I was doing in my show was more like SNL, comedy and physical, and I wasn't able to get the two together, which is why I struggled for a long time. I was like, I was so frustrated. So I just remember being like, I don't know if this is the right route for me. Like maybe I should just keep focusing on the writing and the comedy, and so I wasn't able to do that. But then when I eventually got the show, I was like, oh, okay, well this is the more right thing for me. Does that make sense? It was really hard. I wasn't able to blend the two together very well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Soloy. I noticed that you're extremely physical in all your sketches. I thought you were gonna fall out the chair when, and I love that one. I was just wondering, did you ever at any point get any real Courtney Love bruises, or did you have any close calls, any moments like, whoa, that was a really close call, maybe I shouldn't have done that?
I did. We would have stuntmen and stuff, and initially I would just do crazy stuff in my shows. I would cut myself and climb the walls, and my stage shows were very wild. Like I would do crazy stuff. It would basically just be like, for American Idol, it would just be an improv, and it was always there was nothing written. It was a structure where I would come out and be auditioning for some new movie, and I was like, American Idol, and I would sing, and then he would try to get me off the stage, and I would try to stay on the stage. That was the improv. We would do it live in front of an audience, and we'd do it for like 3 minutes, and my objective was to stay on, and he was to get me off. But I would go crazy and do wild stuff and get cut and bleed and bruised. So when I did SNL, I would throw myself into chairs and do crazy stuff, and they were like, people thought I was crazy. But then it would, and I would do it with nothing, just no padding, nothing, just bruising myself, and but I wouldn't feel it when I was doing it. But then it started to scare me because so many people would ask me if I get hurt. They're like, do you get hurt? Like everybody would ask me that, but it started to scare me. And then I started getting like, what if I break my neck or something? So then I started working with stuntmen, and I would wear pads, and they would kind of watch me, and I was padded. Yeah.
Because the first one, the one with Gabriel Byrne, I mean, you were just falling all over.
Yeah, that was great. I mean,
and you were adding that outfit when you played, Mary Catherine. Like, you can't put knee pads on that outfit. No. Like, it really is just you.
That's a great story, because actually, when I did that sketch, they were like, they didn't really know what it was, and I remember showing the writers, I was like, I have this sketch, it's this schoolgirl, I did it in my stage show. And the writers were like, yeah, the reason why this can't work on Saturday Night Live is this, I don't know, this doesn't make sense. And I was like, but that's what I did in my show, and I know it works. And they were like, no. Like, many writers told me, no. And then this one guy, Steve Corrin, sat down with me. He's like, well, tell me what you do in your show. What do you do in your show? I go, well, I come on the stage, I go like this. And he typed it up, and then, because I was on SNL with all these groundlings people who were used to typing, and whereas I just written everything orally. I wasn't a writer that way. But I was technically a writer because I created all the stuff. So he just basically typed up everything I did in my show, and that was our first sketch that we wrote together. And then he buoyed it with a few more jokes, because he's just a pure comedy writer, so he added a few more jokes. And then I read it at the table, and it went okay. But basically with Saturday Night Live, they'll pick the stuff that's going to get on the air, and they'll rehearse the stuff Saturday night before the show. And the stuff that they don't really believe in, they put way at the bottom. So you get to rehearse Saturday before the live show. And my thing was so far at the bottom, like I think they didn't really believe in the Mary Catherine Gallagher. So it never even got a rehearsal. Then we do the dress rehearsal. And I was like, I don't think they know what this is. But I knew what it was because I'd done it so much in my show that I was like, I know I can get laughs, and I know. And so I don't think they, in other words, because I hadn't gotten up to physically perform it. It was just, when I read it at the table, it was just, then she falls into church. They're just reading it. They didn't know what it was physically. Right. So I was like, I'm going to have to show them. And so it was way at the bottom of the dress. I'm talking the bottom. And they usually cut like the last 5. They never even make it to air. And I remember that I went and did it during the dress. And you really have to kind of sell your sketches during the dress if you want them to make it to the live show. And then I went crazy and did it, and it went great. And then you go in the Lorne Michaels' office between the dress show at 8 o'clock and the live show. You go into his office at like 11:10 before the live show, 11:30. And I remember and you see what sketches are cut and what made on the air. And mine got moved from the bottom to the top. I was like, this is so bad. So it's hard to show, So then that helped everything.
Well, it was obviously all worth it. Thank you.
It was good.
Hi, Molly. I'm Anthony.
Hey, Anthony.
From Ohio.
Oh my God.
Ohio.
Oh my God.
My question is, like, when you first started out, how did you work and conquer those nerves? Because I know a lot of us get nervous, especially in auditions.
Yes.
Well, you do like this, and then.
I know. I think it's like good energy. I think it's like passion for your work, and I still get really nervous. And but I try to. I still get very nervous, but I try to center myself in my body. Like if I get really nervous, I just like think about my body or my feet on the ground, or like think about my legs and my body. So I try to get out of my head and into my body and feel my feet on the ground and, think about my stomach and my legs and like that. That's what I do.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is Marina. I see you look amazing. You have a great shape and you're very flexible. My question is, what kind of sport activity are you doing?
We all want to know.
Oh, good.
We all want to know.
I'm a runner. I run. I try to run every day. Yeah. Run. Just run.
Yeah, I know, but you're like really flexible and usually like yoga.
That's also, I don't do any yoga or anything. It's just running. Yeah. Thank you.
The legs were up and down. And
You know what? Actually, I want to say I did stretch because I would stretch before I did those because I would pull muscles and stuff. So I have stretched, but yeah. And then also, my dad, when I was growing up from our car accident, had braces on his leg from our car accident. He was very badly injured. So a lot of those characters were like my reaction to my childhood, like me, like wanting to I wanted him. I was so bummed that he walked with a limp and couldn't move from our accident that it was a lot of me watching him and imitating him, but wanting to, wishing that he could run and kick and move faster. So a lot of the writing came from a reaction to my childhood.
I'm married. What are you doing tonight?
You're doing good.
My name is Mr. X, and I just have a simple question. What are you feeling between theater and filmmaking?
How do I feel between the difference?
Yes, between theater and film.
Theater and film. Let me see. Again, they're so different because, I did Broadway, for example, and that was so fun, and it was also terrifying. I find film more relaxing. I don't get as nervous doing film because you can do it over and over, and it's so intimate. So I feel the live performance is much more terrifying because it's live and you can't stop. So they're so different. Whereas the filming is so like for example, Enlightened. When we shot that scene where he says, like, I'm like, look, I just don't want to be, deal with a jerk or a dick or somebody who's fake. It's like just me and Mike White in this little room, and the camera guy's like so close like this. It's so quiet, very different. I don't get as nervous for that, because you really just have to try to be present and listen and be in the moment, whereas the live performance is just much more nerve-wracking, I feel.
So you like film more, or you like film?
I like them both. They're different, but the film acting doesn't make me as nervous as live performance. It's much more relaxing, because you can do it again, and you can ask for another take, or it's really really nice. I like it.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
and enjoy.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Well, okay.
My name is Alex Valtierra. I just want to ask you, maybe you can do something fun for us? Little monologue?
Were you awake for the past hour? An hour of fun.
It's different, It's a person.
You want her to do a little scene with you?
Yeah, sure.
Are you an actor?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think so.
Not today.
Oh my God.
Who?
No, but you should do something.
Wait a minute. Who has experience with some comedy, some
I'll do it.
groundling? Okay.
I'm done.
Second City.
Oh, I didn't do Second City, but.
He did Third City. It's lesser known, but still very popular.
Anybody has done
She's in the groundling. She's really good.
Everybody, come on.
All right.
What do you want to do?
Yeah, what location?
No, we need a location. For
I
this
don't
thing.
do improv.
Oh, you don't?
No. I just, but you could do something if you want. No, I never just, this is so funny, but actually Mike White and I just got asked to do, we went to Upright Citizens Brigade, and this guy said, oh, can you do improv? And I was like, I don't do like the formal, hey, I have a city. And he goes, but you were on SNL, didn't you do that? I go, no. And he goes, oh, come on, you can do it. And Mike White was in the audience, and he goes, I'm not going to do it. I don't do that. But anyhow, I got up there with all these really professional improvisers, and it was terrifying, and I was terrible. I sat back there, and you were supposed to like jump into the scene and like do it. So I don't really do that, but I'll do stuff.
Anyway, I think she has done enough for us because there's so much to this woman that when you first meet her, you don't see that it's there, and it's what's coming out of her is just amazing to me. I mean, the fortitude,
Wait, I have to tell you something like that because I remember I met some guy at like a dinner party, and he didn't recognize me. He was like, "You're an actress," and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You seem like a business lady or something." I was like, "Thank you." I like that.
No, I mean, you've seen really how a person succeeded in this industry against all odds, She came from like nothing in terms of like help. I see today people whose families help them and do them and this and then the other. She did it all by herself against all odds, But you can see that there's like a spirit and motivation and perseverance and passion and, incredible stuff. And even what she said before, when she saw that, the audition and what she was doing didn't gel together, she decided, well, okay, I'm just going to be creative then. I'm just going to go in the way where I feel creative and do my own way. And this is really, at the end, the only way to actually go there and have all those ups and downs and all those things. So I don't know about you, I got a lot out of it. So I want to thank you so much.